Thank you, everyone, and thank you for coming today. Again, thank you to Minesh and to Kim for organizing this event. There was a gentleman who was up north hunting with some of his friends. And it was early in the morning, and he was kind of tired from the card game the night before, and he's traipsing through the forest with his shotgun, ready to get some deer. And all of a sudden, he comes to a clearing, and there's this woman, very alluringly dressed, and she's there, and she looks so inviting to him, and he looks at her and he says, "Are you game?" And she says, "Yes." And so he shot her. I know, it's a bad joke, but someone is still, he's gonna kill me later. Why do I tell you that story? Because sometimes we're so focused on something, we're focused on game. And that's a good thing, to be focused. And when we're small business owners, we're focused on making the next dollar so that we can meet payroll, so that we can get some project done, that we're not looking at the big picture. And we're certainly not looking to the end game. That is, what's going to happen in the long run. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you about that. And as Minesh said, I wasn't sure what was going to happen today with my schedule, because unfortunately, one of my high school classmates, her husband died, 51 years old. Never expected to die at age 51, I'm sure, and has really turned his family topsy-turvy, and the funeral's this morning. The reason I say that to you is that could happen to any one of us. And are we ready for that? Are we ready for that from a personal standpoint? Are we also ready for that from a business standpoint? And not only was I facing that with my friend, but I also had Ted Himmelhal from Ameriprise in my office yesterday, and we were talking about business continuation insurance. If something happened to me, if I became disabled for some reason, or if I died, what would happen to my business? What would happen to my clients? How would I continue? Those are all big issues, and we often don't take the time to stop and think about that. And so I'm going to ask all of you to take a few minutes today to think about that, and to think about that also from a family standpoint. What would happen to my family if I were to be gone today? And I guess, you know, I had a whole presentation prepared about my actual chapter, which is called Don't Be an Average Joe Business Owner, Start with the End in Mind. But rather than go through just a cursory review of that, I just want to focus on the estate planning part of it and your business planning part of it. And I guess it feels very urgent to me today because of my personal circumstance and because of what I've just experienced. So if I feel, or if I seem a little forceful about that today, maybe that's why, because I'm feeling it today. And I want you to also feel it. So what can we do? What can we do in terms of our plan? Well, I think that one of the first things that we need to do is to put our personal affairs in order. Because business is one thing, but family is another, and I think our main goal has to be to protect our families. So, do you have a will? Do you have an estate plan? Do you have a trust? All of you should be thinking about that. And many people say, well, you know, I don't really want to think about death. Well, unfortunately, there's no good time to think about death, and rather, a better time is to think about it now than when you're actually faced with it, or faced with the death of a spouse or another family member. Make those tough choices. I have many people come to me, husbands and wives, and they'll talk about an estate plan, and then they'll say, you know, we cannot decide who the guardian of our children should be. We're arguing about it all the time, and so we're not going to enter into that document. We're not going to sign that document. And my words to them, my word of advice to them is, there's no parent who will be as good a parent as you are. Let's just take that as a given. But on the other hand, do you want to leave your kids in front of a court to decide who should parent them if you're not there? And believe me, anyone who has had dealings with the court system would not want to subject their children to that. In other words, you want to protect your children. You want to put them in a situation where they know if something happens to you and your spouse, that they have a place to call home and people who they can trust and rely upon. So it's very important that you set that and that you do it. And, you know, better to make a choice that you want to change later on, better to make a choice than to do nothing. So that's number one. Number two, you need to decide who would take care of you if something disabled you to the point that you couldn't take care of yourself. For example, myself, I happen to be single, so I don't have a spouse to rely upon. If I became disabled, who would take on the responsibility for me? My child is still a minor. She wouldn't be able to do it. I'd rather make the choice of who's going to take care of me, truthfully. Now, if I didn't make that decision, again, that would force my family to have to go to court to appoint a guardian and conservator on my behalf. And it really would cause a lot of heartache and a lot of problems. So make those decisions, decide. And it's also a matter of self-respect, to think of yourself and think, well, what can I do to determine what my future will be if I can't make my own choices? So think about that and try to make those decisions. Once you've decided on a will and a trust, and I guess, I'm not sure, how many of you have a trust? Okay. So many of you already have made that decision to make a trust. Some people don't understand the distinction between a will and a trust. A will is a document that just gives a directive when someone dies. So when someone dies, it says, please divide up these assets in this particular way. While a trust creates an entity that continues, it begins at the time you sign the document and it continues even beyond your death or disability. And it names a trustee, someone who would administer that trust, and it would also allow for a change in trustee if the person who was named trustee changes or is unable to serve as trustee. So it's something that continues on despite disability, despite death, and it allows you to make certain gifts even beyond your death. So a lot of times grandparents want to make sure that their grandchildren have monies to be educated, as Jane was talking about. Her parents really believed in education. If they had money set aside, they might have wanted to have a trust that would have given Jane's children the opportunity to go to college, and that would have been a legacy that they could have left for them. So that's the beauty of a trust document, is that it goes on beyond someone's lifetime and can actually leave a legacy. Now, in terms of business, what can you do that's similar to a trust from a business standpoint? Well, you need to have some kind of business continuation plan. And a lot of times that takes the form of some kind of buy-sell agreement with your partner or with someone else who may want to buy your business. It also can involve insurance, so that you can buy insurance to make sure that your business continues in the future and that your employees could be paid even if you couldn't continue to do the work for the business for at least a period of time until the business is sold. So those are all important components to think about. And I know that it's a lot to throw at you this morning, but I think you're all game. Thank you.
Before that, Marisa, did you have any offer or somewhere people can get more information? You want to mention anything like that?
Marie Jakubiak and I have done a CD which talks about estate planning, and if you don't know Marie, she's a CPA, so we thought we'd team up, CPA and attorney, to give you some advice with regard to estate planning. The CDs are there on the table, and also I do believe so strongly in estate planning that I would be able to give any of you a half-hour consultation at my office at no charge. Typically, it's about a $200 charge for a consultation, so it is a good thing. If you have an estate plan that you want me to review in case there might be any changes that would be required, please come in and see me. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa.